Regular council meeting to order. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to see a nice full house, and we'll start with item 4.1 and 4.2, which is two citations for the different groups here in town. So we'll start with one for the Tolland High School boys varsity soccer team. I will read the whole thing. There's a lot of great stuff up on here, but I'll read the highlights. The 2024 Tolland High School boys varsity soccer team was led by Coach Michael Kokomo and assistant coaches Bryce Aston and Ryan Soroy. And they had a wonderful season with a regular season record of 11-3-2, which earned them the CCC East Division Championship. They scored the 500th victory in the program's history, and it was Coach Kokomo's 100th victory as head coach. And so the town council would like to recognize the hard work and dedication of the coaches, the team members, and the families, and everyone involved who helped contribute to such a successful season. I, Jacob Murray, on behalf of the citizens of Tolland, honor and recognize the 2024 Tolland High School boys varsity soccer team. So, great having everybody in person. We've got a proclamation, and I think if we could get a.
Yeah, boys, we're gonna try to grab a picture with council and yourself. So we're gonna try to do it kind of where you are. If you just kind of glom up there, and the council will get over there with you, and we'll take a picture back here. Does that sound all right? All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Right.
There's a sweatsuit on Jake. He looks like one of the players.
What are we doing? Hands up, box.
Say cheese.
Cheese, really good.
Right. I'm gonna do one more.
One more.
Well done, guys. Yes. I always say, if anyone interested, I don't think it's
Yeah.
So congratulations to the high school soccer team. Obviously you had a tremendous season. And it was so exciting to see the town send you off. And I'm sure for the parents, the coaches, the schools, presidents, and of course yourselves, it'll just be something you'll always remember. And congratulations. And I'm not sure if the coach has anything to say.
I just, I think on behalf of the team, just for your support. The send off to the field was amazing. It's better to plan that before the game in case we don't end up winning the game, but obviously, winning the state title means a lot for us, and it meant a lot to bring it back to you guys as a town. We have 5 seniors, all contributing pieces and a big group returning next year. So I think we've enjoyed celebrating as much as we have, throughout the off season so far, that, hopefully it motivates us to want to do it again next year. But this is a special group, so we're honored and happy to be able to celebrate it and to do as much as we can to bring a positive light to this town for you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to say congratulations to you guys. I grew up here in this town, played football in this town. Football, I'm not sure the similarities between football and soccer as far as making roster, but you guys know that we're built on hard work, integrity, doing well in school, and then coming out with small numbers. We're not Manchester, we're not Glastonbury, we're not these big ass schools. So you guys coming out here, working hard, it's always tracking soccer, winning the championships, right? So you guys are savages. You guys did your thing this year, and thank you guys.
Feel free to celebrate by staying for the next how many hours to come soon. We're not.
No, this is the most fun part about being on the council, is celebrating accomplishments like this. So thank you everybody for coming, and congratulations up on this big accomplishment.
Yeah. Great job, guys. I expect to see most of you back here next year at the same time. Our athletic director, McCluskey, thanks for coming, being so supportive. I went to the game in Hartford, my old stomping grounds there. It was great to watch. You guys were exciting. What a game. Great job. So we hope to see you. You make us all proud. All of us are very proud to have a championship team here. And soccer is such an important sport in our town. It seems to be constantly our best sport on both the women's and men's side of things. So thank you for keeping that tradition going. Thank you for working since you've been, God knows how young, right through to here. Thank you to all the parents and family that supported them. We all celebrated in this, certainly. So thank you so much.
And as Vice Chair Moran said, you're welcome to stay, but if you'd like to go, you're also welcome to do that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. You guys might get extra credit if you stay.
Isn't it one of the classes they have to stay for? I had to go some sort of nonsense.
They don't do that anymore.
I had to go to one. Hey, you know what, Brian, I went to one when they were arbitrating taking the 2 trees down here.
Oh,
And it was the biggest meeting we ever.
things would be running a little different these days.
Who was the town manager?
Werbner.
Like 09.
Werbner.
Thank you.
Tree lover.
No, it was a hot meeting.
Yeah, I'll just wait for it.
There he is. How are you? Good to see you. Not too bad. Nice year. Yeah. Awesome.
Oh, okay. You're on the timeout.
One of the few people that are here all the time.
That's great.
So I think we can go to our second, 4.2, citation for National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. This is, I think, the first time we've done this citation. It's the first-
Yeah, I went through.
Yeah, but no, important to recognize our law enforcement. So I'll just read off a few statistics about our local office, because I think it's important to think about what our local law enforcement is doing on a National Appreciation Day like this. Between the resident office, also Trip C, which serves our residents, along with those of some surrounding towns, they've responded to nearly, or I think over 8,000 calls. Now, including 6,000 different police matters, and conducted an estimate of 1,400 traffic stops, and are always out there looking out for our residents. And so with that, I'd like to invite our resident trooper Corey Brennan up to receive this citation in recognition of National Law Enforcement Day.
You can get a round of applause.
Yeah, you can.
Yes.
We doing
Sure.
okay?
I mean, if you want a photo, so you don't feel like
No,
you're.
please,
Yeah.
I mean, we can
We
all
should
do a
do- we should
photo.
do it.
We should.
Sure.
Let's do it. We can use the background here too.
If there's room.
Got enough room, right, we don't have a lot.
Yeah.
You make concessions for the soccer
I don't even think the passwords were in there.
team.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Yeah. It's all me.
It's all me.
Not by a long shot, not by a long shot.
Highlighted this career.
It was all me.
Carrying on with that.
So with that, we'll go to item 5, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. So we'll go to folks in the room first. Is there anybody who would like to speak? Right, we'll go online. Is there anyone online who'd like to speak? Room. So we have room.
Yeah, good evening. Dennis Deegan, 689 Tolland State Road. Just one quick thing. It would be helpful. I was curious. I was sitting back there wondering, because it's always difficult to hear what gets set up here. And I was wondering whether you had mic system here, and obviously there's no mics in front of you. So maybe that's something you might want to consider for the half dozen of us who take the time to come here as opposed to listening or watching online. Obviously not that critical, but it's always very difficult to hear everything that gets said. So just a thought. 2 quick things. Last meeting, I had asked about something in the town manager's report about a study conducted at UConn for a sidewalk. And I wasn't able to stay to the end of that meeting, so I don't know whether or not anything was brought up or discussed about that. Just curious, and I know there's no interaction in this portion of the meeting. And I've been reminded kindly, which I appreciate, and have to do it tonight. So I'd be curious as the meeting goes on, if there's anything about that, that study itself. And if it's out there, maybe it could be posted on the website or something. Obviously, you don't want to mislead anyone in town here to think something's happening, but it might be of interest to kind of get a feel for that. And then the only other item I guess I have right now is obviously the letters went out about the reassessment process. And I tried to go online to find the information that says that the letter is online. And the fact is, it isn't online yet. So I don't know whether any of you know that or whether you tried to do that, but the assessor's office is not at a point where that's made available online yet. So I didn't get an answer as to when that was going to be. I was told that you can go into the assessor's office and look at the list of properties that they've used to come up with everyone's evaluation, but it isn't yet out there and posted as the letter suggests with that process. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody online who'd like to speak? go back to the room one more time. Anyone online? All right, looks like we'll close out public participation. That brings us to public hearing items, of which we have none. So now we'll go to reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. So go to Colleen. Trying to remember.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. It's been a while. So, yeah, so the firehouse, subcommittee met back in December. We will also be having a special meeting, this Thursday to, get some updates on station 140 and 440. Hopefully we'll have at least some sort of timeline and some other updates on things as well, as things are progressing. So, but at the last meeting, we did review the budget summary, and that went really well. The original budget was $2,935, and we actually spent $2,590,000. So, and some change, so we came in actually 344,000 under, 483,048 cents to be exact. So that was great work for the subcommittee to be able to find any savings we could. Obviously, later on tonight, we're gonna appoint a new person to the subcommittee because Lisa Hancock has retired or is retiring. So we felt it was very important for the new year to add her on. We also spoke briefly about station 1 and station 4, like I mentioned earlier, and some of the things for station 440 that are priorities as of now. I don't know if they've changed. Is strip the roofing, roofing replacement, point the masonry, and adding on a base slab, and then let me see. And then we'll have about $1.5 million to spend between the two stations. So I think that's really it in a nutshell. We don't know yet. There's things pending, so hopefully we'll have clear answers on Thursday. Did I miss anything?
ARPA, but we're gonna talk more about ARPA, so later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I meant anything missing from the firehouse.
No.
Okay.
So the only things I have to highlight is CROG did meet since our last meeting. Not a whole lot to report there. Just say that the Attorney General came and maybe this is an interesting presentation on illegal cannabis products and how to tell the difference and some things that local law enforcement can do. So that was interesting and informative, but can't think of anything else to note on that topic. I think EHHD meets tomorrow, but they haven't had any meetings this year. So, am I missing anything, Brian?
No, I'll attend that EHDD this week.
That's our committees, I don't think. Oh, contaminated wells, but contaminated wells has come up here. Yeah. That will go to reports of town council liaisons, so go around. Jen, did you have any committees that met?
Yeah, PCC met twice. So overall, they had kind of wrapped up and discussed at the December meeting, the tree lighting, truck parade, kind of pluses and minuses. I know there was some extra bills that have been addressed that they weren't expecting. So now they're jumping right into Memorial Day celebrations and planning that. So they're hard at work planning that. I know there's some budgetary concerns because there's things that are more expensive now than there were before. So I think that was a big part of their discussion was if they'd be able to afford a lot of the things that they normally have at the Memorial Day function. The only other question that they had, it's a decent question. I guess they had to relight the tree this year. They want to know when the tree lights are going to go off. That's about it.
Thank you.
Can I just ask
Sure.
a question? Did anyone on this one scarecrow with the best?
They they did announce it, the one that they picked for their, the one that PCC picks themselves, was Headliners, had won that one. And I wanna say, I can't remember if it was a Little League, it's been a little while, but they did, so Headliners was the one that they PCC picked themselves for that fourth prize, yeah.
Okay.
And they're very excited about it, they got their little, yes, yeah, they're very happy.
Alex, did you have any committees that met? Elaine?
The Recreation Advisory Board was supposed to meet on Monday, but unfortunately first was sick, so it was canceled. And the Commission on People with Disabilities meets this Thursday, as well.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, Planning and Zoning Commission met last night. They only had one substantive item of business, which dealt with Somerset Woods and just sort of like the timeline of how things were gonna unfold there. So that was just a sort of technical timeline change that they were addressing. They also addressed in anticipation of Marilee resigned as of the end of the day yesterday from Planning and Zoning. So they discussed leadership on Planning and Zoning. And Joe Matthias was elected vice chair by the commission. So that's it.
Thank you. Joe?
And nothing.
I've got one, Economic Development Commission, met 1 week ago. They continue to discuss the economic development plan for the town. And also they voted on a recommended revision to our town's tax abatement ordinance, which we'll look at probably for the next few weeks. So look out for that, but other than that, nothing else to report. So that brings us to new business, item 8.1, appointment of a member to the town council. Turn it over to town manager to give us the background.
Thank you so much. As you're aware, there's a vacancy on December 31st. Katie Stargardner came to town hall and submitted a letter to the town clerk's office. That letter is attached to this packet. It was a resignation letter and she has resigned from town council. I want to personally thank Katie. I really enjoyed working with her. A lot of people didn't see what went on behind the scenes and what she did for our contaminated wells task force and HDC was always above and beyond and so much work that no one really has any idea that she did. So I thank her for that. On January 2nd, the Tolland Democratic Town Committee had a meeting and I believe they forwarded Marilee Beebe and recommended her to fill the seat of Katie Stargardner. So with that, Chair, I turn it over to you to fulfill that.
Thank you. So with that background. What's that?
She's on.
Yes. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to appoint a member to fill Ms. Stargardner's seat.
So moved.
Or you'll word enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. So
I
you
know,
know, just, yes, I move to appoint Marilee Beebe in accordance with the Tolland DBC's nomination.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So excited.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Is there any discussion about appointing Ms. Marilee Beebe to the seat?
I just want to quickly mention, I hadn't realized this last night, it came up at planning and zoning. Marilee has served for 29 years on various land use boards in the town between planning and zoning board of appeals. And so that's a ton of experience that she brings. Thankful that she is willing to step up and serve on the council. So I think she'll be an asset.
Yes.
Just to echo what Councilor Moran said, she has a lot of history with the town of Tolland. She's been living here for a long time. And again, I didn't realize how long she had served on any board with the town, but she comes with a lot of knowledge. I know, I believe she had told us that she worked with Councilor Yudichak and yourself, Councilor Mari, on the helping kind of the firehouse stuff on Caring Road. So it sounds like that there's been a lot of us that have consulted her here and there for various things. So I think she's going to add a lot to the town council, and I look forward to having her on.
Thank you.
Hey, Marilee, I don't know when is she sworn in yet. I look forward to working with Merrily, too. She's Merrily, nice to see your face, but, it's nice, welcome to council, like Jennifer said, you have like tons of experience. I spoke to Andy a little bit, and he definitely said there's gonna be a big hole on the plan zoning, and just says, got a good head on your shoulders, and you'll be great on the council, so, just wanted to add that, so welcome. Did she unmute me?
She's the co-host.
Oh, she cannot unmute. Okay.
I'll just echo the sentiments. I don't know Mary super well, but in all my interactions with her, she's been very knowledgeable, very helpful, and I think she'll be a good voice on the council. So, anyone else or?
Yeah, I'd just like to say something, very happy that, you know, stepping forward, any kind of public service that comes at a time of need is, you know, makes us all very happy. I'm definitely more of an in-person kind of guy, so I look forward to meeting you in person. But thank you for stepping up, and all the sentiments I've heard about you are good, so that makes me happy.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Just a simple.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. I look forward to joining you, and I have a bit of a learning curve, but I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Same here.
With that, Jacob, Sarah Beth's gonna schedule, did we already get time with her?
I don't have time yet. I'm preparing her packet, and I was waiting until she got back to town to get her on the calendar.
And she'll come in and we'll just go over all the, everything that we've been up to over the last few years, so all the major things, so.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to participate and help get her up to speed. All right, well, yes. All right, well, with that, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Looks like that was unanimous, so congratulations, Ms. Phoebe, you're now a member of the town council. All right, so that brings us to item 8.2, introduction to new senior center director, Kyle Sandus. So, Brian, you gonna give an introduction or?
Yes. Yep, so Kyle's been with us for a few months now, I would say. When did you start?
2 months ago.
2 months ago, so she's been off and running, but you know, the way the meetings have been set up, we haven't been able to get her in here. All indications are she's doing an outstanding job over at the senior center. We're certainly happy to have her aboard. So Kyle, do you have anything you want to say?
Sure. Shall I come up here?
Sure.
Great, love that. Hi guys, my name's Kyle. As I said, I've been the new senior center director for about 2 months. I wasn't born in Tolland, but was raised in Tolland, so it was a very special place in my heart. I'm very excited to be here. I went to school for criminal justice, and from there went into human services for about 8 years in different capacities with in-home therapy, juvenile detention, residential work. Then I went and worked for the National MS Society for 5 years, where I continued to do that work. Got a little burnt out, switched over to event planning, where I learned a lot about disability, ADA, and I was able to kind of cultivate all of that into this position. So I'm very excited to be here and bring all of that back to Tolland.
And you went to school in town, right? And
Sure did.
Your parents still live in town.
Sure do.
Okay.
Was there about, I don't know, an hour ago.
And
So
I
it's a
just wanted
good,
to say too, she's doing a great job, and I'm hearing a lot of positive feedback, and
Thank you.
it's wonderful working with her. And I keep saying she's unassuming, you know, very calm, very down to earth, and very smart. So
Thank you.
Is it though?
just like you, Brian.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
So does any counselors have any questions for Kyle?
What would you say, I know this, you're in here for 2 months, right?
Uh-huh.
But this is your passion here, right? So what would you, like, what's your view on what the senior center looks like? New things to maybe implement, or
Sure.
things that we could do to help you, or?
Sure. So honestly, like the past 2 months, I've really just been taking a look at where we've been, where we need to go. Talking with a lot of the seniors. I actually have a survey out that I put out maybe about a week ago. And I've gotten about 10 results back, but I've got until about the end of next month to get it back, because I want to see what seniors need. What do we need to reassess? What do we need to eliminate? We've also I think we're in a transitional period where we've got some boomers coming in, not some, quite a
Yeah,
bit of
yeah.
boomers coming in. And that's a very different need than what was here about 5 or 10 years ago, so. Just really trying to take a look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And also just what everyone's kind of needing.
Well, happy to have you back in town and
Thanks.
thank you.
Councilor Moran?
Just wanna welcome you and thank you for coming in tonight, and
Thanks.
I'll reiterate what Councilor Newton said, if there's anything, you know, that the council can do to help senior center or you, please definitely have an open dialogue with us and whatever we do.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of good things too about all the developments that are going on with the senior center and the population that's increasing into the senior center. I'm probably gonna be there soon myself, so we look forward to a lot of good
Oh,
programs.
welcome you.
Okay. You already said something.
Just quickly, welcome back to town, I guess. But we're very happy to see you here. It's nice to see you seem very passionate about the position, and it's nice to see that you're looking into not only where we were at the senior center, but what we're projecting. You're definitely gonna have a large population that's going to be eligible to be going to the senior center.
For sure.
Either now or in the near future, so I'm excited to see what you have in store for us.
Awesome, thank you.
Just echo everybody's sentiments. It's great to have you aboard. I remember when we first had our tour, or first got sworn into the council, we got a tour of all the facilities, including the senior center. I was really surprised as to all that the senior center does. So definitely a really important town department. So like Chris said, you know, love to hear if there's anything that we can do to support senior center activities and any needs. So thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Any last comments? Okay. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
That brings us to our second introduction for our new finance director. Yolita, did I say it right?
So far,
Perfect, okay. Oh.
yep.
Lazowskis? Is that close?
Lazauskas.
Lazowskis, okay. Yolita Lazowskis.
All right, so she's our new finance director. You know, so many towns have had, you can come on up. Yeah, so many towns have had such a hard time finding a finance director. We were lucky. Yolita is a Tolland resident. I had a daughter just graduate Tolland High School. Comes from the state of Connecticut, city of Hartford, in finance positions as well. Prior to that, we did not ever work together, or we probably missed by about 2 months or so from crossing paths in the city and the state for that matter. But now she's here with us in Tolland. She comes highly recommended by our agricultural commissioner who lives on the Tolland Green. He's the one who referred to us in the beginning. She's been working nonstop with Lisa, and I don't say that lightly. Her reputation is that of someone who will outwork all of us. She just is a workaholic. So we're lucky to have it. She's been working hard with Lisa, trying not hard to do, is that what we're gonna say? Yeah, that's right. So but she's been working with Lisa. Obviously an incredible time with the budget coming up. Lots of things going on, but here she is. Do you have anything you want to say?
Okay, thank you. I really, Brian, I think the only thing you missed that I'm so happy to run for lunch home and come back if I have a technical difficulties with my computer. Last night it was the same thing. I was trying to work after dinner and just the technology was so difficult. I said, my husband, would you mind if I run to the office? It's like that, you can. And I came here for 2 hours and by 8 o'clock I was back home. This is the best work I could ask for, so it gave me relief. But as Brian said, my professional background includes over 13 years of experience in private sector and about 6.5 years in the public sector. In the private sector, I had fortune work at the CPA firms, construction and manufacturing companies. With the focus of finance and in accounting. With the public sector, I composed roles at the city of Hartford in the state of Connecticut, where I served as a revenue manager, director of budget grants, and also Chief Financial Officer. I'm very proud of all contributions I made in those roles and also the skills that I developed throughout my career. So I'm here to work diligently with you with any financial community concerns I can help. Thank you all and happy to be here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Do any counselors have any questions for Yolanda?
Question, I feel like you asked some questions. Well, first, welcome. I met you a few weeks ago in town hall, like dropping off something. And I'm the one that mistakenly said your name. But Brian has taught me how to say it. So I was just one quick thing. I know Lisa's teaching you a lot of things or whatever that she did in the past or is still doing, but when Katie was here, she had Lisa start like a every quarterly update of the finances and everything, just I think basically an overview, which I think I can't really speak for the entire council, but it was really helpful to get those snapshots. I'm not sure if that's something that you could keep doing for the council.
Absolutely, with the city of Hartford, that was a part of my job doing monthly.
Okay.
So doing quarterly, I think I can handle it.
Okay. But again, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll see you around a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Those are very helpful.
Yeah.
Councilor Roy?
I'll just want to welcome you, echo what Colleen said. We're obviously sad to see Lisa go, but looking forward to working with you, and sounds like you're already putting in some good hours. So we really appreciate all the work you're already doing on behalf of the town. So thank you.
Not a problem. That's my passion.
Anyone else?
Just quickly, just wanted to say welcome. You're still here after you started and it's been some time now, so I feel like it's safe to say you're in it for the long haul, which is great. So welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here, and I hope it's for a long time because we had Lisa for a very long time. So it's always nice to have a familiar face and consistent face too. So welcome, and I hope it's a very smooth start for you. I know there's a learning curve for everyone, but I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And obviously welcome, and you're coming in a pretty tough, and in a way it's a tough time, and in a way it's a good time because, you know, you're coming into being in the budget cycle. So obviously you've been through this many times before in previous work history, but it's always a battle. The first year you're trying to learn something new. So it's good because you're going to learn probably the hardest part of the job right away, and then secondly, it's the most critical part. So you're getting it day one. So welcome, and really look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
I'll just again say welcome. Look forward to working with you. I'm sure we're seeing a lot of you over the next next few months as we really start to ramp up the budget season. And I think it's great that you're a town resident. You know the town well. That combined with your experience in your community very well. Also, just highlight you got a decent amount of people on the phone for a typical meeting. You know, the town's doing a lot of due diligence to make sure that the transition goes smoothly with Lisa staying on in an advisory consultant kind of capacity and making sure there's a good handoff. So Tolland is definitely doing its best to make sure that there's some consistency and that everything is set. So again, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I have another finance related item on 8.4, presentation and discussion of 2023-2024 annual comprehensive financial report.
Thank you. We have our current and consultant finance directors here to present that. And we also have our the company that did it online as well. And so I give you Lisa Hancock. You want to handle it? Sure.
Good evening, everybody. One of my last official acts or a few of the last anyway. Tonight we have Vanessa Rosito with us. She is with Clifton Larson and Allen. She is the partner with our firm, and she's going to be doing a presentation regarding our audit. Now, included in your packet, like I do every year, there's just a little overview of the operations. I'm not gonna go through that unless you have questions. We can do it after Vanessa's presentation if you'd like. It's totally up to you how you'd like to proceed with that. Normally, I just give it to you as part of the audit report each year.
Okay.
Is there a problem? Oh, okay. I didn't know if you could hear me or not. So what I will do is I'll turn it over to Vanessa and we'll go from there. If questions come up, I'm here to interact.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us. I also have with me Alex Kimmel, who was the senior on the engagement. So he's going to be doing part of the presentation with me, so I don't have to listen to myself the whole entire time. So do you want me to do the PowerPoint, or do you all want to control that?
You go ahead and do it, please. I'm
Okay.
gonna ask someone to set up Alex as a co-host.
Okay.
Vanessa, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
There you go. Almost there.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, but I'm not at the beginning of the presentation, so just give me a minute. Okay, here we go.
Also gave Alex co-host rights, so he's able to jump on at any time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, here's our disclaimer, which you don't have to read, but we have to include. So as far as the agenda tonight, I'm going to go over the terms of the engagement. I'll go over an executive summary of the results of the engagement, some high-level financial highlights of the financial statements. Alex is then going to go over the federal and state single audit and the governance communication, and then I will end it with a management letter and upcoming GASB pronouncements. So as far as the terms of the engagement, CLA was hired to express opinions on whether the basic financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, express an in relation to opinion on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards and the schedule of expenditures of state financial assistance. That's basically the federal and state single audits. Express an opinion on compliance related to the major federal and state programs that we test in those single audits. Provide a report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. And finally, provide a report on internal control over compliance related to the major federal and state award programs. As far as the results on the financial statements, we have issued a clean opinion, or technically called an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That basically means that your financial statements are correctly stated in accordance with our accounting standards. We did not have any findings with respect to the financial statements. The federal single audit also had a clean opinion on the major federal program that was tested. And again, no compliance findings or significant deficiencies in internal control. State single audit, clean opinion on the major state programs that were tested, and no compliance findings or significant deficiencies. We did issue a management letter, which I will talk about later in the presentation. So in a nutshell, all clean opinions on all the deliverables and no findings, which is all great news. So as far as the high level financial highlights, what I have for you on this slide is the table from the management's discussion and analysis, which is in the front part of your financial statement. So this is depicting the governmental activities of the town in the first two columns, 23 compared to 24, which are all the general funds, special revenue funds, all the governmental funds of the town aggregated together and then brought on a full accrual basis. So that means that we're going to also account for capital assets in this presentation and all the long-term liabilities. So just looking from 2023 to 2024, at the bottom of the slide, net position changed very slightly. It increased from 125 million to 127 million. And just looking at all the categories of the governmental activities, the only category that I would deem had a significant change was current liabilities, which decreased from 18.9 million to 11 million. And the reason for that was you had a little bit over a $9 million bond anticipation note in 2023, which was reduced to a $2 million bond anticipation note in 2024. So that accounts for that change. The next two columns are the business type activities of the town. These are already on the full accrual basis. So the funds of the town, which is the sewer and water fund. And just looking at the last line, the total net position of the business type activities, really nothing drastic. Your net position went from 9.48 million to 9.36. So really small change from last year to this year. On this slide, let's move this. What is depicted here are the major funds of the town. So the general fund, which is the major fund where, you know, all the revenue, all the property tax revenues are accounted for, all the departments of the town's expenditures are accounted for. Then you have your emergency declaration fund and your capital projects fund. The rest of the smaller funds, if you will, are aggregated together into the non-major governmental funds column. So just looking at the bottom of the slide again, just to go over the changes from last year to this year. General fund had an increase in fund balance of about 1.4 million to end the year with 14.554 million. Emergency declaration fund had an increase of 398,000, ending the year with a little over 500,000. Capital projects had a significant increase to net position or fund balance, sorry, of 3.9 million. The majority of that is due to the fact that you did issue long-term debt in this fund of 4.965 million. And so in governmental accounting, when you issue debt, that's accounted for as a revenue. So that is an increase to your fund balance. And then there was a small decrease to fund balance in the non-major governmental funds column. So in total, just looking at that total governmental funds column, your fund balance increased 5.7 million from 20.8 million to 26.6 million from last year to this year. And then some other financial highlights I thought you might be interested in, just talking about the general funds fund balance. Total fund balance was 14.6 million. There's different categories of fund balance in the general fund. So 1.3 million is committed. In the assigned category, you have about 617,000 for encumbrances. And then $300,000 is assigned to balance the 2025 budget, leaving you with unassigned fund balance of 12.3 million in the general fund. Budget to actual results for the general fund, the revenues came in $950,000 higher than was budgeted, and expenditures came in $370,000 lower than was budgeted. So positive results on both sides there. Property tax collections were 99.04% compared to 98.87% in the prior year. And then your OPEB liability, which is the liability for other post-employment benefits, so retirement benefits, for the employees of the town is very small, 1.17 million, and it is 61.74% funded. Okay, and I will hand it over to Alex to go over the single audits.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. So we're going to start here with the results of the federal single audit. And as you can see, the town had a total of $2.3 million of expenditures of federal funds. We did our detailed testing over the ARPA grant. That was our one major program for 2024. From our testing, we had an unmodified opinion, as Vanessa mentioned earlier. We did not have any compliance or internal control findings over the requirements of the ARPA grant or any of the expenditures that we had tested. For the state single audit, the town spent a total of $15.2 million of state funds. The major programs that we tested this year were the pilot program, Town Aid Road, and the STEEP grant. And just like with the federal grants, we had an unmodified opinion and no findings to report. Okay, so next we have a few of the highlights from the governance communication letter. It's a letter that we send out when we issue the audit. We had no new accounting standards to be adopted in 2024. There were 3 significant estimates that we used in preparing the financial statements. These are the useful lives used to calculate depreciation on the town's capital assets, the net OPEB liability, which is calculated by the actuaries, and the IBNR liability. This is an estimate of the amount of health insurance claims that were incurred before the end of the year, but had not yet been reported. So we have an estimate for that as well. We had no disagreements with management, and management did not consult with other accountants during the audit. We had no difficulties in performing the audit, and we had no uncorrected misstatements. We did have to record one adjusting audit entry, and this related to the amount of ARPA revenue in a few different funds. So we'll go over that in a little more detail in the next slide. And lastly, we had no independence issues.
Thanks, Alex. And so like I said, we did not have any findings in the single audit, but we did have a management letter, and this is it's a suggestion for improvement. So as Alex talked about on the previous slide, there was an issue with the ARPA revenue recognition in various funds. It was a little confusing because there were transfers out of one fund to spend the ARPA monies in other funds. So the revenue recognition we had to post an audit entry to make sure the revenue recognition was correct. So the management letter is just saying that care needs to be taken to look at these revenue recognition issues when you have grants that are recognized on the expenditure basis going forward. Okay.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead, Lisa. Sure.
Just so you know that management comment was taken immediately and everything was put into place. The right entries were just moving. The money was recorded in the ARPA fund rather than in the capital funds where it should have been. We immediately made all the correcting entries to put that into place, and we now have a process in place on a monthly basis to make sure as expenditures are incurred that the revenue is recognized within the appropriate funds, so that that situation will not occur in a future audit. That's it.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, and then the ever long list of upcoming GASB standards. We have 2 standards that we need to address in this upcoming audit. Statement 101 which has to do with compensated absences. So the towns and cities are going to have to look at their compensated absence policies and their accrued time. No longer are we just recording compensated absences for those, for the time that is going to be paid. We're going to have to look at it to see if there's any time that is due to employees that they can take in future years. So that's going to have to be analyzed this year. Statement 102 is certain risk disclosures. So there could be certain concentrations that may need to be disclosed. So we'll work with the finance office to see if there's any situations like that for this year's financial statements. And then for the year ended 6/30/26, there's statement 103, which is the long awaited financial reporting model improvements. This was supposed to be a far-reaching standard. GASB's been talking about this for 10 years or more. They've significantly reduced the effect, thankfully, on the financial statement. So there will be some small things that are going to change, but certainly nothing like they were talking about before, which we all should be thankful for. And then lastly, statement 104, which is disclosure of certain capital assets. I think if the town has land that is held for sale, that's really what this standard is about. I don't think there's a lot of situations like that. So I don't think this will have any effect on Tolland. Okay. And that is it. I'll open it up to questions, and I also have some news of my own to disclose. And I know Lisa knows this and Yolita knows this. So, so I am also retiring at the end of 2025. We will have a new principal that will work with Tolland. So we will be wrapping her into the fold. And I've already met Yolita, so I think it will be a seamless process. And I'll still be around this year. I just won't be signing the engagement.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from counselors or anything like to add?
I just had a question. Not finance person, so going through your letter to the council. I just noticed it said on the 1, 2, 3, third one under revenue overview, it said that basically we were more than revised budget by $950,000.
Yeah.
And then I was just confused because on the next page, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th paragraph down, it says there's a budgetary shortfall of 948. Where are you? So, do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the reports, not the slides, but.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
Your memo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's up under other financing sources.
Right.
The overall net effect, in revenues, overall revenues, we were talking overall revenues, that particular comment is one category of revenue. So there were other revenues that offset that budgetary shortfall. And with that budgetary shortfall, it truly wasn't like revenue that we were planning on collecting and getting money in. It's an intentional shortfall. When we do our budget, we use a use of fund balance. So you'll never see a revenue come in to that account. But in effect, what happens at year end is the difference between your actual revenues and your actual expenditures is really what impacts fund balance. But this just shows the difference between how much money you had in the budget and how much you actually collected. But with other financing sources, you won't usually collect. There's some items in there you'll collect, but others, it'll just be a zero in the way we record the year end.
Okay. So I guess my question is, but I thought we had more, like, you know what I mean? I thought last time we spoke, there was an expected amount of money coming in. So is that actually, we have more money coming in, or there's?
Well, the overall, let me find the beginning part, the overall excess of revenues over expenditures, did I tell you that? We had excess in revenues of 950,000, and then we also had 369,000 that we did not expend in various accounts. So between the two of those added together, the net effect is that that's the amount that will increase your fund balance.
Okay. So I guess I just had another question. Sorry, just jumping around, guys.
Sorry.
It's on the second page. Third paragraph down, just so nobody knows where I'm at. One of the things it says there is additional funds for educational costs saving sharing in adult education of 2 amounts. Is that, where's that going? It's like almost $500,000.
That falls under our municipal tax stabilization fund ordinance. So the ECS money, I don't know why I put adult education, because it's just the ECS money that would fall under that ordinance. A portion of that excess revenue goes into the municipals, under the municipal tax stabilization ordinance. So 75% of it goes to the tax stabilization fund and 25% goes to the capital non-recurring fund. And same thing with the other municipal revenue sharing. That was money that we got last year that we were not aware that we were going to get.
Yeah.
Same thing, that's where the funds went into. And it was split by the 75-25%. So the grand total of, if you add the two together, 75% of it went to tax stabilization, the other 25% went to capital non-recurring.
Okay, and then I think one last question. So I was thinking last question. Same page, right? Yeah, second page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, Public Works. I think it's the very last one. Public Works Department. It said there was a little bit more than $161,000 in savings, but would that really be going towards the budget, or are we expected to fill some of those things? Because that seems like a big chunk of savings.
We had a lot of situations last year in the public works area, illnesses, things like that. And so when someone's out on workers' compensation, the town is not paying. So we're saving those tax dollars. To try to budget for that, it's almost impossible to project someone being sick. So the savings, basically what happens is you didn't spend that money. So the net effect is you spent less money. Eventually it'll flow into fund balance for whatever was saved. Again, actual revenues less your actual expense goes into fund balance. So if you had, for example, if you planned on $500,000 worth of tax revenue to fund $500,000 worth of expenses and you only spent $300,000, that means you collected $200,000 in tax revenue in excess of what you actually spent. That's going to go into your fund balance.
Okay, that's fine. We weren't near budget time, I guess, if there's such a high amount of savings.
This is uncommon. Last year was unusual.
That budget gonna be less 160?
No. That money is gone. I mean, that budget is over and done with.
Yeah.
So the new budget that we're in now does not have those funds added to it. You know what I'm saying? That budget is closed, it's gone. those funds went to fund balance. Nobody, the Public Works Department has no access to those funds. It's just basically back to fund balance.
Okay. That's all. Thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Yolita, right?
Yolita.
Thanks. See Brian talking. Last meeting. All right, Jacob, that's all I have.
Thank you. Do the other counselors have questions?
I'm still trying to understand Colleen's comment about the other financial sources. I get the whole, net revenue increase of $950 with a net reduction of expenses of $370. Basically what goes into our general fund. I'm just trying to understand this revenue shortfall from other, I assume this is revenue, this is the revenue section of
Right.
the memo.
Mhm.
A shortfall of $948. Was there other revenue increases that offset the $948 to
Yes.
get to the net $950?
Yes.
Okay. And then are you?
And
I
then
was trying
most
to-
of those are outlined here in this report.
in this particular in this paragraph?
It's not in this paragraph, but if you look at the other sections discussing what revenues exceeded the budget, what ones, we had over $1 million in investment income. We had charges for services,
Yeah.
36,000. The intergovernmental revenues, 588,000. So you had other revenue sources in the budget that offset those funds that were not.
The other financial sources.
Right.
And I was just trying to, because I saw the $948 and then I read the rest of the paragraph. I'm trying to add the numbers up that are mentioned in the paragraph and it doesn't come to the $948.
No, I
So I'm just trying to
probably just hit
understand
the
what all those other
highlights.
numbers are there, what all those numbers mentioned in there, because a lot of it seems like it's costs and not revenue, but I couldn't quite follow that, like this 200,000 for use of the fund balance. Well, use of fund balance means an expense to me, not revenue, so I just didn't understand why it's listed in this paragraph and we're talking about revenue.
It's not an expense. Each year, we use a certain portion of fund balance when we budget to offset what the mill rate, so that it's basically,
So
we're gonna
pulling
take
that
some
out.
of our savings, so it's like a revenue source.
Got it.
Not really, it's another financing source, not really a revenue per se.
Okay, so is that saying that we didn't use the 200,000?
That is correct.
And that's why it's not revenue, because it didn't go into the revenue section. Got it.
Normally, we would not even do a journal entry to record whatever we planned on using. So this year it's 300,000. It just stays blank so that when you're closing entries at the end of the year, whatever revenues you got, whatever expenses that you paid, the net difference is basically what's left over that goes to fund balance.
Okay, so even in the same example, 172 Board of Education Reserve Fund, so that would have been money that was pulled out of the reserve that we didn't pull out of the reserve.
It wasn't pulled out. What happened was it was allocated to their 1% fund. Okay, so the way, when you approved it, you approved the Board of Ed having 172,000 from the previous year to go to their separate fund. That was just basically another use of fund balance. Again, we don't actually we don't show it. It's a revenue. You have to match your revenues to your expenses for your budget. The expense did hit our records for that transfer that went out of the general fund to the 1% fund.
Okay.
So the fund balance was actually reduced when that expense hit, but for a budgetary basis, you have to include that revenue source in the budget side of it to make it all balance.
But, okay, but you're saying the revenue source was reduced by 172,000, so.
No,
not
no,
interpreting
the
that
revenue,
correctly?
the budget for the revenue source was increased. Okay, budgetary accounting is a little different from GAAP and everything else. So what happened was, God bless you, when the town council authorized 172,500 to be put in the Board of Education, that means I needed to have a budget, an appropriation, which you authorized, to move it to that account and I had to charge an expense. So I had to have a budget on the expense side to charge that expense and then move it out. So that's just like paying any bill. You have a budget, an expense, it goes. In budgetary accounting, we have to have a budget, a balanced budget. So you need a revenue line item as to where you're going to fund that from. Well, it was to be funded by the use of fund balance. Again, we don't just say to the balance sheet and do a journal entry and reduce the balance sheet and show it as a revenue. What we do is we have the budget for it. And the impact of reducing fund balance is that expense that hits the general ledger will reduce your fund balance when it closes out at the end of the year. So you're not.
You keep talking about the expense when this is a reduction of revenue. That's why I'm trying to
What-
understand.
No, this is an increase to revenue. It's a budget increase.
But your first sentence says this is a reduction, overall budgetary shortfall, so it's a reduction of revenue. That's what I'm getting confused about.
It's a budgetary shortfall. In respect, what that means is you had a budget for $1 million. And
Revenue.
right,
So you-
and there was some revenue that may have come in for other things such as encumbrances, things like that. When we cancel encumbrances, some of that you will see like hard dollar revenues for that line item. Okay, but in addition, there's what we call the use of fund balance, which you will never see a journal entry showing the revenue for that use of fund balance on our general ledger. So the budget's there. You're gonna say, I need $1 million, but you're not, and 800,000 of it is going for an expense that you funded, whatever the expense may be, the 172.5, whatever. The budget is there, but you're not gonna see the revenue come in. So it's called a budgetary shortfall because you have, I'm just throwing numbers out, $1 million as your budget, but 100,000 maybe is actual revenue. So it shows a budgetary shortfall of that amount.
When you say budgetary, difference between budget and actual?
Yes.
Right, so I'm still trying to, maybe I'm just thick, I'm still trying to understand what makes up your 948,000 budgetary shortfall, because I don't, when I point out these other numbers you mentioned in the same paragraph, you're saying, well, that's not revenue, that's an expense. And it's an expense shortfall, it's an expense.
Well, no,
adjustment.
there's expenses that were depending on these budgetary adjustments. So I don't have the exact report in front of me, but basically what happens is we started out the year with other financing sources of probably 200,000. Then we had the municipal tax stabilization ordinance. Again, the money that you had revenue up in the other areas, but we had to increase the revenue to balance with the transfer out to go to the tax stabilization fund, CNRE. It's just a record keeping mechanism. So that's why I'm trying to say here, it's not, even though it seems like a large shortfall, it's not because of how our other revenues are working and how our what it was planned for. The net effect is you planned on using a certain amount of fund balance. In turn, we actually increased fund balance, so we didn't even use it because of the other revenues that we did very well with. And I'd be happy to try to meet with you if you'd like to maybe kind of show it to you on a report that it might be easier to understand if you see the revenue and expenditure report and see how it all
I mean, these are pretty specific numbers, so is there any way to give me the reductions that came out of this revenue, this other financial source? It's really what I'm trying
Right.
to understand,
What
because I can't, the numbers you have below, you're telling me aren't in this 948.
Well,
That's what I'm struggling with.
well, no, they are part of it, but it's. Let me go through each one by one, if that's okay. Part of the revenue source, the actual revenue received, we had like a little over $80,000. That was a hard dollar amount versus the budget, okay? Then,
You said it's a revenue source, so did we not get that revenue source?
we did get that, 80,485, we did get.
So it has nothing to do with the reduction that I'm seeing of the 948.
Right. The reduction of the 948 is basically saying you had, and I'm just throwing this as an example, you had $1 million out there as a budget, but you only got 80,000. So the difference is the budgetary shortfall from budget to actual.
Okay.
Okay, it really, it did not, that's just the revenue side of it. So included in that, we started out the year with 300,000 or 200,000, 300,000, whatever it was, 200,000. Okay, then we added 172.5 for the Board of Education. That was a supplemental appropriation. We also added 86,800 to the capital fund. This is just the use of saying we're going to use fund balance to fund all these expenses on the other side. This is the revenue side. Then the tax stabilization fund, the capital non-recurring, that's that money that I spoke about earlier, that we had excess state revenues that goes to those funds based on the ordinance. So all those added up, your overall estimated use of fund balance to $1,028,000 and change. Part of that we actually received, it was actually dollars that we received that offset budget. The rest flows through when we do the expenditure side of it that was based on using that fund balance.
Okay, so again, I'm struggling here because you're telling me that we had, I can add the 200, the 172, the 86, the 426, and the 142, and that gets to the 10, well, it looks like the 1028. I have 1027 because I just rounded. Right, is that correct?
That's, yes.
Okay, so then that, I understand you're taking fund balance and you have to put it up into revenue to offset the expenses that you're now pushing down, because you're saying, okay, I have to fund this Board of Education reserve. But now there's this reduction of revenue from the 1028 down to 948.
No.
So
you have a revenue budget of 1028. Okay, that's your budget.
Yeah.
You only received 80,485 actual.
Okay.
Or whatever, hopefully the difference comes out to the 948 differential. So if you take your budget of $1,028,000, you reduce it by the actual revenue you got, then it shows that you did not receive $948,000 in cash in your account. And that is appropriate in the way we did that.
So when you say we did not receive the cash,
right?
But this money was an allocation of the use of funds.
Use of fund balance.
Right. So in plain English, that to me says that we didn't take some of our fund balance and treat it as revenue because we never incurred those expenses.
That's not true.
So we incurred the expenses. We
Yes,
just
we
didn't
did.
use the fund balance.
And by incurring the expense in the same fund, it took the money out of fund balance when we do our closing entries at the end of the year. You had your full revenues of whatever you received, throughout the year.
You say received, so forget about using the fund balance, you're talking property taxes,
Right.
grants, all that other stuff. Okay, so we're getting all that money coming in.
Right, and then your expenses going out.
Yep.
The net difference is the impact on fund balance. So if we didn't have excess revenues in other areas, then these other allocations that the council approved would have reduced fund balance in those closing entries. But we had sufficient revenues to help offset the use of that.
Okay. I think I get it. After all that, I'm sorry, guys, but I just wanted to make sure I fully understood.
If you have
Just
any
lack of
questions, feel free to stop by and see me. I'd be happy to, when I have, like, I could show you the reports that.
No, your
Make it all-
last sentence cleared a lot up. for
Okay,
me
good.
about
Okay,
How that works, so
Alright.
I appreciate that.
thank you.
What's that?
That paragraph was.
Yeah, it is
So
very, very
did I
tricky.
confuse everyone else?
You're limited.
Yoletta will handle it.
Yeah, I promise you won't, because no, I actually, that was simple.
So I stopped math and statistics.
Lisa, so I'm going to ask two questions with respect to revenue that very well may have been answered somewhere in that.
Long, painful.
But at bottom line, when it comes to revenue, like the net outcome is that we had I lost the number.
950.
Oh yeah, there we are. An increase in revenue of $950,000 that we were not anticipating. It was $950,000 more than we were anticipating. Net.
Yes,
That's like the first sentence I'm talking about under revenue overview.
that is correct.
Okay. And then to Joe's point, when we get down to the other financing sources reflect an overall budgetary shortfall of $948,000. We're not talking about like there's $948,000 that we didn't collect in like property taxes or something like that. This is
That is correct. It had nothing to do with property taxes, but the overall net effect of your budget is that you had $950,000 more in revenue.
Yep.
Net,
Yep.
based on all those things that we discussed in here.
Okay.
So that shortage of 948 was offset by the $1 million that you had for investment income. There was other revenues that excess taxes, a little bit of excess taxes. The various building permits, things like that, offset the use of those funds.
okay. And so I lied. Third question, just to follow up. So the 948,000 number. Oh God, it feels like math class. I just lost it. Was that money that we had budgeted to use from one of our fund balances that we didn't need to use because of additional revenue, or we would have been short 948,000 from what we had budgeted from the use of fund balances?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of how I.
Okay. Is that,
I'm trying to think of how I can,
Lisa, if I may,
please.
so I'm-
it sounds like I'm
I could pull up RSI 1, which is the budget to actual, which may help. So
That's what
I could share my screen if you all can see it. I don't know how you're set up over there.
Go
Or-
for it.
that would be helpful.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Okay, so this is the budget to actual presentation. Can you all see this? Okay,
A little bigger.
sure, yep. Oh, wait, right here. Is that better?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
We used to have a nice one pager, but that's gone away with the new reporting.
right.
So
So you can see the property tax section variance is $264,000 over budget. Can everyone see that? in the last column, total property taxes. Yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so then intergovernmental revenues is $201,000 over budget. Total general government is $387,000 over budget. So we're good with that so far?
Yes.
Okay, and then charges for services is $36,000 over budget. Investment income is $1,001,000 over budget. Other revenues is $6,797 over budget. So just looking at all of your revenues, this is going to be before the part that's confusing, and I understand. You are over budget $1.898 million. Okay. So these are the amounts that you are all talking about, which is cancellation of prior year encumbrances is the 80,000. And then the appropriation of fund balance line, which is, I agree, confusing, but this is governmental accounting. So the positive 80,000 and negative 1,028 equal that 948,032. So that brings you to the 950.
Can I just, okay, just to put a bow on it for me to
Yep.
understand. So we basically just didn't need, when we budgeted to use an additional $948,000 from fund balance that we did not need to use, given the increase in revenue that we received.
That's all that trouble as well. Vanessa, would you agree with that?
Yes, because so what has to happen is that you have to have a balanced budget. So if I'm hoping I'm not going to further confuse you, but in this first column, your original budget was 61,551,357. Can you see that number?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I just
Go for it.
bear with me here? Your expenditure budget, I'm sorry, is 61,551,357. So it has to balance, right? So when there's additional expenditures in your expenditure budget, so now it's 62,380,120, that has to come from somewhere, right? As Lisa was trying to explain. So the 200 has to increase to the 1,028, so the budget balances. So it's an entry, nothing really happens with it, but the reality is, like Lisa stated, you didn't even need to use it because you were over budget in revenues 1.898. So you ended the year, on paper, you didn't need to use the fund balance that you thought you needed to use because of the additional expenditures.
Got it, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for that.
Yeah.
And if you take in this book, in your audit report, page 76, if you take the actual 63, 330, 194, and then you take the actual for expense, the difference between those numbers is what increased in fund balance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Okay.
That's helpful getting the visual, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Jen?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. Is this pretty on par for what historically has happened as far as having an overage?
In the last couple of years, we've had a lot of unanticipated state revenues that we weren't anticipating during the budget process.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact of the investment earnings rate. We were being advised by our advisors that, the rates weren't going to go up as high as they did. So the past couple of years, investments rates went up And we've received some pretty significant grant funding from the state of Connecticut that we were not aware we were going to get. So that's what's contributing in your last 2 years to these numbers. This year, so far, and you will be getting your quarterly report at your next meeting. So far, investment earnings are up there again. The feds have begun to start reducing the rates for investment earnings, but not to the point where, we're still doing very well. Chris Jordan in our office invests every penny that he can. It sometimes drives me crazy with that, but using every bit of cash and investing it. So, but he does a great job with getting those investment earnings for you. So this year may not be as, significant in the past couple of years, and that was mainly because of we got ECS money, we got the municipal revenue sharing. This year, we're not getting any excess ECS money. We're not getting the municipal revenue sharing. The state did not have any money left over from the sales tax collections to be able to allocate it like they've had in the past couple of years. So, so the trend, yes, the past couple of years, the trend has been there, but now we're starting to see it slow down a bit.
Is it something that kind of across the state, other municipalities are having issues with?
Absolutely.
Is gauging how much we're going to be bringing in. Is there anything that can be done so that we can better estimate? It sounds like, we got some bad advice last year or the year before. I can't remember which it would be.
It wasn't bad advice.
Hard to predict.
Yeah.
Right at the end of
investment-
budget, we're trying to chase Tammy down and find out like how much you think they're gonna give us from the state, and we can't predict on the low side, or to get shorted, so we do the best we can. And so, and Chris, was doing well as well, but trying to predict what we're getting from the state, you always wish it came in before we did our budget. And we'd be able to hit the dart, right in the center of the board.
Sure.
We don't have that.
And this, for example, this year with the municipal revenue sharing, originally when I was putting the budget together last year, I was putting an estimate in for those funds. And all of our advisors from CCM, cost, the state, were all saying, don't put it in. And I'm saying, but we've gotten it the last 2 years, it'll certainly help offset our budget. They said, don't put it in. Luckily I didn't, because that would have been about $250,000 that we're not getting now. But these are the things. It's very difficult with getting information from the state and knowing what they're going to give us. And mid-year, they could change what they've allocated to you, and that's happened in the past.
See, we know going forward with this budget season that we're not going to get that. Would you say it was municipal tax?
Municipal revenue sharing.
So we know we're not getting that, and we know ECS is not changing, so we're looking at it's gonna go down.
Well, it's not gonna go, well, in the current budget that we're in, I think we're going to get what we budgeted.
Okay.
That's the way it's appearing right now, what we've received so far and the information I'm getting from the various state agencies. For next budget, we gotta wait till the governor releases his information. So there's just certain areas that we'll discuss at the next meeting of, where revenues and expenses are going right now.
Enough of the numbers.
Any other questions from counselors? I just had one, actually.
It's all you get.
Yeah.
And then I quit.
Wow.
Say that. I'm only kidding. Of course, you can ask as many questions as you'd like. But it just felt good.
That's what I said too.
Yeah.
What you got?
So my question was with the property tax collection. There's some comments in here saying that the property taxes or tax collection have been a bit more aggressive in years past, and the estimates for what we were going to get were exceeded. So my question was, is as we build out like the new budget or the budget proposal that we're gonna get here in a couple months, has that been taken into consideration for an estimate of how much tax revenue is gonna get collected?
And, we already have preliminary numbers that we're thinking about. Yolita needs to review it with me. Actually sent it to her this afternoon of, where I think where the numbers will be, and certainly, that will all be taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Last chance for questions.
So
All
I have
right.
no questions to the audit, the audit
Yeah.
firm, so if they wanna go, we could probably let them go, so we're not keeping them on. But I did have a couple more questions.
Vanessa and Alex, thank you so much, and
Yeah, thank you very much.
you're free to run.
Yeah.
Okay, we will. Have a great night. Thanks, everyone.
Retirement.
Bye.
Congratulations.
I think there's an incentive to be a little conservative on the numbers, because if, let's say, we know we're going to exceed budget in a particular year, is it from a procedural perspective, does the town have to go back to the council to request additional funding? Knowing, like, let's say we're gonna be $1 million over budget, now you've gotta go use the general fund to meet those budget requirements for a particular period. Is that just what's the procedure for that? If we know
Sure.
we're gonna be over budget.
When it comes to expenditures, we do not go over budget. And if there's a situation where something comes about where there's an emergency or whatever, and we need additional funds,
Right.
we come to town council and request a supplemental budget appropriation. For example, the 172.5 wasn't overspending the budget, but we had a supplemental appropriation that authorized me to move that money.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
talking about. I mean, obviously,
And-
it's gonna be an unusual circumstance.
And then on a management basis, if for some reason your revenues are trending less than budget significantly, during the year, we should be looking at that and determining, the manager will work with the superintendent of schools and the director of finance to determine, do we need to put a freeze on spending? Of course, bring it to council's attention, but if it's something significant where the revenues are not coming in, and luckily we haven't really had that situation here, thank God, then that's the other side of it, that you may have your appropriation and you're not gonna overspend your budget, but if your revenue isn't coming in, then we need to figure out how we're gonna manage that.
The quarterly report is gonna kind of keep everybody in balance throughout the year as well. It's one of the benefits of doing that.
Easier to follow. I
No
think.
surprises, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Looks like we're out of questions, but thank you.
Come on, a couple more would be
Don't
fine.
worry.
I have one more.
Again, so.
Right. Just keep going.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, and you for being here and answering all of our questions. Definitely helpful, especially as we start the budget process.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 5. Yeah.
Thanks for hanging in, George.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the ARPA subcommittee was formed, when the ARPA Act was passed, the town received the funding, and the subcommittee was formed to really come up with a balanced way of spending said funding, with the goal of spending it in its entirety by December 31st, 2024. Thanks to the subcommittee, we did spend every penny of it, largely, almost entirely on one-time expenditures, and spread it around as best we could, in an effort also at the same time to reduce our debt down the road. Watching other towns go through the budgeting process, you can see some might not have been so smart with their money. We were lucky here, our subcommittee, smart that a subcommittee was formed, and smart that we kept everything in control, and we don't have the financial difficulties other towns are seeing as a result of that. I thank everyone that was on the subcommittee. I can't remember past or present, but certainly Colleen was, I believe, there throughout the entire thing. And how many years was it? When did it come in? Because it predates me. 3 years?
Yeah.
And so she's gonna, Colleen's gonna kind of bring us to where we are. There is a resolution to dissolve the committee attached to this package.
Oh, thank you, Brian. All right, so just thank you for Brian for that. I'll just say a few things and I'll go over that spreadsheet. So 3 years, and 3 years since opera has been going, finally close it out. So the committee was initially formed in 2021. It was formed to make sure, like Brian just said, that everything is checked out, and there was 2 counselors, the town manager and the finance director on there. I do want to say it was, I think, a little bit more than $4 million that the town of Tolland received, and we allocated it all wisely. I do want to also add that we vetted out 57 items. 18 of those did not get filled for various reasons, either it didn't fit the criteria due to price, lack of information, but 39 of them were approved. Back in December, November, with Lisa's help, I decided to make a very easy spreadsheet so people could see where it was spent for transparency, and that's what's also. And then you'll Lisa, I'll get there. Took it and enhanced it a little bit more for everybody. So let me just go to it. So again, I think we tried to put it in order. So for just miscellaneous things, it was 14,000. $79,973 that we spent in single items such as the mental health task force. What was it, Jacob? The analysis that we did were on there. Contaminated water study, COVID, and the finance structure overlap, which are all great things. So of course those are capital items, but there are things worth using the money for. And then Board of Ed came in at $571,443 and some change. And some of those items, I won't list them all, but were floor machines, the tractor, school dishwashers, the seclusion room, and a few other items. So when you really start going through it and you see where it all goes and see it all together, it's really exciting to see that we have been spread it out pretty well. Fire department was $175,438. I think they're one of the lowest ones that got an amount, but still the money that was spent there was wise, and I feel good about where we put it there. Included the ambulance that Brian loves, that we can egg on for a long time, Brian and I. The fire station study, key fobs, and some furnishings for station 340. Then some of the bigger ones, which Public Works, definitely huge because we saved a lot of money in capital, which helps the taxpayer. So that was over $2.6 million, almost 2.7. It's huge. Grader, mower, dump truck, and the biggest thing is obviously the Parks Facilities Garage. And then lastly was another big one, which was huge and great to be part of, was the $804,000 towards the recreation area, which everywhere being used, Little Leagues, ice skating rink right now, and the other items on there as well. I believe everything needs to be cleared out though next year. Is that right? Like everything has to be
December of 26.
December, it has to be, right, it has to be completed, or you lose that money, or somehow.
We'll have to pay it back.
Yeah. But anyways, it was a great committee to serve on. I enjoyed serving with Brian, Lisa, Jacob, and Tammy. We definitely had different opinions on everything. But at the end of the day, I feel really good about the work we did, and I'm glad I was able to serve on it. So just want to thank the past council, this council, for letting me be a part of it and finishing it out.
Thank you too. Colin, you put a lot of effort into that, so you were always invested, so thank you.
That's it. So any questions to finance, well, we are in the whole committee.
Any councilors have any questions?
Good job. Yeah, thanks to the ARPA subcommittee for all the work that went into this. I think we did a lot of good for the town. So.
Yeah, everywhere you go, I think you see something.
Yeah. That was good. I think it was evenly distributed, you know, as best we could, and I think it's the committee is a good idea for like bigger special projects like this. Not all the time, but I think for this it definitely made sense.
Yeah, I'm glad we did. So I remember when we were voting on committee for it, it was really, no, we shouldn't get in the weeds of the staff, but I definitely think it was a good idea to have the control and
For such a large award.
Yeah.
All right. This is that. Any other comments? To entertain a motion to adopt the draft resolution in week 5. Okay, moved by Alex. So you got a second? Second. All right. Second by Councilor Moran. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. ARPA committee is formally dissolved.
Starbucks, like, thank God.
All right, that brings us to item 8.6, consideration of a resolution for the use of the cannabis sales tax revenue.
Great, thank you, Chair. So with the.
Wait a second, sorry, do you need to indicate her absence in the vote?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
We do.
She just, sorry, kind of missed her.
She just stepped out to Jen. Just didn't vote on the last thing because.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, my apologies. All right. Maybe continue the discussion. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
You ready for me to jump on 8.6 again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this is a consideration of a resolution for the use of the cannabis sales tax revenue. With the decriminalization of marijuana or cannabis, that some retail establishments have opened up across the state. When an establishment opens up by law, there's some sharing of revenue, if you will, with the facilities with the towns they are in. So we're getting some revenue every quarter we get it? Every month we get some revenue. It's not a lot. So we did some research on how best to do that using cost, CROG, and CCM as to what other towns. There's a wide variety. This is a very generic way of spending it. The things that we have decided to use it on or to consider using it on. Basic stuff, streetscapes, educational programs, services for individuals, mental health, addiction services, youth services, community and civic engagements. Very generic, but we all, internally, we feel this is the best way to go, as discussed in December.
Yeah, mate, I'll just add something real quick. I think we discussed this at the last meeting. The idea is we looked at the statute and what the money is allowable to be spent on, which is restricted to a list of things in this resolution. And the idea was that it'd probably be best if we kept it very flexible as to what that money could be spent on, but it would still make sense to have at least some sort of documentation saying where the finance department is supposed to put that money and what's supposed to happen to it.
You'll get that number 6, and I can Fox, if you look at the bill for the Harvest Fest that we just got, I mean that defines it right there. So that's the kind of thing. Again, it's not a lot of money. We want our store to do well. But we're not, it's not a ton of cash, but we're happy to have it.
Yeah, what is it, like maybe 45,000 or something right now? I can't remember.
I don't think it's
About 43,000 a year.
That was the estimate. I don't know if it's gonna be that. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm pessimistic watching what happened,
Yeah.
you know, in Wellington, that place,
Those stories,
we'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah, but certainly not ARPA quantities of money, but.
No, we would.
it's, Could be useful in certain circumstances. All right, I'll open up to councilors. If anyone has questions or thoughts on? Yes.
So this money would be allocated to the general fund, is that what was discussed at the last meeting?
It's in its own fund now. Are you gonna dissolve it?
Yes.
Okay.
So my question is if there's this, this kind of narrow group of things you can use the money for, how does it reflect if it's put to the general fund that you're using it for those purposes?
Go ahead.
Within our general fund, we have many of these expenses already occurring. So if it goes in as a revenue source, it will definitely offset streetscape improvements, civic engagement, youth services. We have all those services now that are funded by tax dollars. So the revenue that goes into the general fund, if there's ever anyone questioning in any respect, how did you use that revenue? We can show them the expenses within those various budgets that fall in those categories. And this will help offset your mill rate increase each year as well, since that will be another new revenue source. Not adding new expenditures because the expenditures are already there. It's just going to reduce the amount that we'll have to tax for.
Is there any kind of requirement from the state to have to, we don't have to report back and say, hey, we use the funds for this, or there's no kind of audit that would.
We don't know about an audit yet.
We have not heard anything yet. The statute does not show any sort of guidance other than what it can be used for. It does not state that you will have to report. If reporting comes down the pike in the future, we could be ready to immediately provide where the funds were spent.
Are there other municipalities that do it exactly like this? They're putting it into their general fund? Is that typically what the procedure is?
That a lot of my colleagues are doing it that way. Manchester is, for example. Others are signifying maybe they're taking one of these purposes and just saying we're going to do that and fund.
Yeah, Hartford, I
special-
believe, is entirely the political aspect of it. Some don't have any, some towns don't have any policy, or where maybe they were where we are, we're considering it. So that's what we literally went and said, can you tell us what all the towns are doing to cost and CCM?
That's typically.
It was all over the board.
Yeah, that's typically the easiest way to do it, because it sounds like it's the easiest way to just say, hey, it's being used for this because there's all these expenditures that fit within this criteria, so we're just kind of throwing it into that same pool. I just wanted to make sure that there was no requirement from the state to really be reporting that you're using it for any
At this point,
It's gonna come. Someone's gonna
screw up.
thank you, and it's gonna come, and we wanna be fortified when they say, all right, we have to start reporting where you've been spending it on
Sure.
an audit, and we're gonna be right down the middle.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yes, Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, so it looks like our resolution sort of just, implements like what the state statute requires for the use of the fund. So like the 6 enumerated things, that's what the statute, or that's what the state statute requires the money to be used for, and this is sort of just us formalizing.
Yep.
Okay.
Questions? Right, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the draft resolution as outlined in 8.6. So moved. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, that passes. All right. So now we'll go to item 8.7, which is consideration of a resolution amending the membership of the Firehouse Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair. As stated earlier, Lisa is going to be retiring out of state. And Yolita will now take over her role on the Firehouse Subcommittee. There's a draft resolution attached to your package detailing same. And I believe it's defined as to the finance director will be on that subcommittee.
Yeah, that's really just housekeeping. I think the reason why we would even vote on this is because in the original adopted motion, she's Lisa's mentioned by name, so
whoops.
Just made sense to formally have Lisa be replaced by Yolita. It's a lot of fun, so you enjoy it.
A lot of personalities. It's a great committee though.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Look at Brian.
So, any other comments, anything else anybody wants to add? I'll entertain a motion to amend the membership of the Firehouse Subcommittee as written in item 8.7.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Colleen makes the motion. Is there a second? Associate seconds. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, all right, that passes. Okay, it brings us to item 8.8, appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions, and I believe we do have one tonight. Chris and Joe, you want to sit back on that?
Sure. There has been a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission for an alternate. That the Democratic Town Committee submitted a nomination or recommendation for someone to fill that seat. Because they couldn't vote to fill Mayor Lee's seat at the time because Mayor Lee had resigned from Planning and Zoning. So this is intended to make a smooth transition. So this will probably come up again, or this will come up again once we move Joel from an alternate to like a full member. But so this is Joel Lopez. He currently is serving on the Veterans Recognition Commission, and appreciate that he's willing to step up and work on the Planning and Zoning Commission with everyone. He did attend virtually last night at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, so I think he'd be a great asset. And so this is intended to sort of make a smooth transition from there.
But just to be clear, she's not filling, or Joel is not filling the PCC regular spot, is that correct?
As of now, no, because at the time the Democratic Town Committee met, they couldn't vote on that because Mary had to resign from that seat. So for now, we're voting on him to be an alternate. And then subsequently the DTC may likely resubmit him to fill the vacant full-time position now that Mary's officially resigned.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to appoint Joel Lopez as an alternate to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Or Jen makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Nope. All right, passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to item 9, old business. There's no new old business. There's just item 10, report of the town manager.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, we lost Mr. Bach and Mr. Wyman this week in our registrar's office. I know we're going to formally thank them. It hurt us around town hall because they were just such great men to have in regards to public confidence and public trust, and just for our staff's morale. They were, and it's a loss. So I thank them, and I asked to have some proclamation done for them next week. The Connecticut State Police contract has been signed on our end. It was reviewed by Rick. Keep in mind, it's different from the previous contract that was signed a few years ago. The AG's office added a bunch of cookie cutter language in there across all state contracts. Our attorney reviewed it. It's been signed and forwarded. It's an every 2-year thing, but I believe this will come up again in about 6 months or so. This will help the Board of Ed, I believe, move forward with some of the stuff they were looking to do in regards to some security. The library, the media center that we have down there with the new cameras and microphones and such, it was tested out to some degree this week. It is fantastic. The cameras had broke again. Thankfully the vendors gave us brand new, much better cameras. It's incredible. So it's fantastic. We're gonna hold a meeting there. The firehouse subcommittee meeting, you'd have to stay home because we want you to test it. So we'll hold it there and try to see how that's going. The goal is to at some point have the joint meeting of the Board of Ed and Town Council there. I don't know if we're gonna do that this year. We can't afford any hiccups with technology, so and it's cutting it close here at this point. So we might look to do that next year. Walt and I have discussed it at length, but we'll figure that out and you'll be kept on top of what's happening. The Fitch study, that is the public safety study, fire and ambulance, is nearing completion. The chief and assistant chief have some generic data that they're looking to study for accuracy and report back if there's any changes that need to be made. And then I expect within a month or so, hopefully we'll have some recommendations and the final outcome of their study. The rec department, the basketball league started and the training has started, and it is just a ton of kids and they do such a great job. That I believe around 180 kids on both that are going through our basketball program. So I thank everyone that's involved in that. It's such a great thing for our kids. So many kids. The skating rink has been a massive success. Mother Nature has played a key role, but not as much as the staff at DPW that's been handling it. It is open right now. The lights are on. We keep them on until midnight. It's been well attended. I drive by their home every night. I've had so many residents reach out and thank us. So it's been great. I want to notify council of a change in the capital plan that we made. We had caught something and it's minor per se, but I want you to know about it. It's 5 years out. I don't know if any of us will be here in 5 years, but hopefully I am. It is for a dog animal control facility. The state of Connecticut, as you are probably aware, came through last year and went through everyone's facilities. Ours is not going to meet the new standards that they came out with. That has to be ready by 2029. We are in the process of regionalizing our animal control staff and looking at a regional facility. That being said, if the regional facility doesn't work out, we have to plan to renovate ours for that. So I added it into year 5 in time for our state's upgrades, $1 million. The estimate's around 900 and change right now. God knows what it'll be in 5 years, but I have it in at $1 million. I'm confident that our grants, Megan Massa will get a grant for the vast majority of that, and we don't need it. However, I do need to plan for it, and so in case we don't get it, it's in there. That's the only change. In an effort to get that in there and to not go over our numbers, I had to move some stuff out to year 6. What I moved out, and this is in consultation with Yolita and Lisa, is the 2 huge dump truck snowplows and the stage lighting at THS, and I believe that was it. We had some wiggle room in year 5 as it was, so I moved it out. Obviously discussed with Director Lappin, Dr. Willett, and Stava over at they had no problems with it. They completely understand how these things bubble up. And again, I really think we'll achieve most of that money in grant and pull it off, but we'll adjust that as it comes. We have a new probate judge getting sworn in tomorrow. A little ceremony here. The Lieutenant Governor will be here, is planning on being here for Sophia Shake. We are very fortunate as a town to have our probate in our own town. It's fantastic. You know, the people who typically use probate, a lot of them are older folks to begin with, so we have it right here in town close. It's easy for them, and now it'll be a Tolland resident. But obviously, Judge Reardon was fantastic. Again, just another personality that we won't have around town hall, but Sophia is fantastic to work with. So we look forward to that. You know, the human services folks did well with some toys, and the state police stepped up big. There were not as many toys were collected as in previous years. we'll work on that, but we had enough to get 302, 202 adults, 100 children this holiday season to get them help to get gifts through Christmas. And then beyond that, we hit Vernon pretty good, the Cornerstone and the homeless. The Cornerstone is the homeless charity down in Vernon. We were able to give them a lot, and then still had some left over thanks to Santa and Glenn and Human Services to hit up some just incredibly poor neighborhoods in Hartford, and also the Three Kings Day Parade as well. I want to thank Jim Paquin, our building inspector. The sewer system over at the electric loo overflowed today. It overflowed a couple of weeks ago. The health department, I asked for the health department to respond directly as opposed to handling it by phone and document said problems 2 weeks ago. They did. Everything I gather when I'm there is reported immediately to the U.S. Attorney's Office and the state's Attorney's Office. And relevant information has been exchanged. The health department will handle the sewer problems with the septic and the tank that's overflowing. I was during the meeting told by Jim that the tank was pumped out paid for by the building owner. If it did not, we would have eventually pumped it, added it to the tax lien and charge them that way. We would have pumped it out ourselves. It's something we're watching closely. I will cautiously say that I expect some news at some point in regards to where that is going. But I will say this, Jim Paquin has been above and beyond. We all saw the pressures that we all saw. And Jim has stood strong in the face of it with me over there. So I'm very thankful to have him doing that. Director Lappin too as well. So panic buttons are getting installed over at the senior center. We have panic buttons installed all around in the offices, the tax office, obviously, and clerks, anyone, Sarah Beth, we all have them. But we weren't able to get the senior center on the first time around. Bruce has them down at the rec center, with the youth programs down there. But now the senior center will have them, I believe, hopefully this week they'll have them in. I sniffed around the Tolland Marsh, with the summer coming up in our kayaks. It's progressing. It's just a long, slow process. I don't expect us to own that for the summer for our kayaks, just with the appraisals and everything and how hard it is to get everything pushed through. Talking to David, I don't think it's going to be this year as I had hoped. Parks Garage is moving along well. You're seeing actually the machines out there digging. They were out there today. Our cybersecurity grant came in for CrowdStrike. Megan is just she also works incredibly hard and nonstop. I have to ask her sometimes to slow down. She works too hard. But bringing in money for our town. Herring Cove, the pickleball courts are pretty much done. I think we're waiting for the nets out there. So they added some, they're not completely ADA, but some areas are walkways now for everyone to get up there. And if they're not ADA, they're extremely close, and that's in regards to pitch. So that Megan actually worked that in after the fact. So we're very thankful for her to add that. Again, we want to always just keep pushing the needle to make the town more accessible. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Awesome. Just two quick questions. On the Tolland Marsh, I know we talk about this periodically at the land acquisition budgeting. I thought we were relatively close. We were waiting for the property owners like attorney to review a contract or something.
That has been correct. And so technically, no, he's just going to sign it without the attorney. We're all set. Okay. That being said, so I, like you, asked that and said, all right, we're good to go. Let's go swimming, now starts the long process of actually purchasing the land, and Dave started to lay it out, and we're not going to have this summer.
Okay. With respect to the electric blue, if I'm remembering right, last night at Penny and Zoning, I think they mentioned, are they like officially closed, like not operating? Or I know they're not supposed to be operating. They haven't been since we
The town has not, no one has reported anything to the town in regards to that.
Okay.
In respect to that, oh, yeah, I had a question first, but we'll get to you. Just a quick question, so electric blue building, is that septic system for the whole building? or
Yes.
Just the facility? So it's the
Yes,
whole
so
building
even if they do close,
that has to be taken care of.
Papa T's is still running their dishwasher, the Hobart's pumping water through there, you know, and package store and Napa needs by code has to have a bathroom and sink too, so, they're all affected by it.
Is there a city sewer line that runs?
Yes, but there's a tank in between, the two, so it doesn't like run straight out. There's a separator tank that separates
Really? Okay.
problems, and it's caused problems, so that's how it works. They used to be septic, but the septic was septic was a disaster, and we borderline forced them to jump on the sewer. It's no leeway, no courtesies by code to them on everything, and that's been my approach with them.
Okay, but it's still backing up even though they followed all the code that.
Can't, unfortunately, at this point, I can't control what goes in the toilets.
So it's not, it's not a septic tank that they have, it's just
It's a holding
but so
tank.
it does.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Right, I'm like, oh my god, I feel like there's always, anyways, just a few things, this is too much of a task, but we get like the monthly managed report, like the day off, is there any way we could get that the week, like the time we get the town council packet, which is the first feed-in, if it's not,
We can work on that, sure.
just because there's a lot of information, but if it's not too much in staff, there's just a note there. And then following the budget timeline, we're starting to meet with directors to go over their budget request next week.
Yes. I am actually, I don't mind it at all.
And as I was just, this is another question. The event that was on the green in December for the concert event, which was great. I noticed Trish and a few other members from the permanent celebration committee were there. Are they gonna be, talking to Trish, are they gonna be possibly taking that on next year?
I have more information.
Oh, you do?
Go ahead.
Okay.
They did discuss that at their meeting last week. It sounded like they didn't really have an idea as to what they could add to that event. And there was a question as to, you know, the rabbi that comes out, you know, what was he paying for or bringing with him for free as opposed to what the town was paying, and if we're looking for PCC to be funding some of that. So I think it was a twofold. It was what would we be on the hook for, and what else could we add to this event, you know, to make it a PCC event. I think they were very open to it. They had no idea. They're like, it's an amazing event already. What are we gonna do?
So my ask of them to attend that was just to sniff around.
Okay.
Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I can tell you this, it costs the town absolutely nothing.
That's such a great.
I don't think it costs the good rabbi anything either. I think he gets everything donated to him, sound system, the lift truck. And then through the graciousness of the art center that they gave us the building this year for no, so it cost us nada. So it was fantastic. And you know, it's just kind of an open-ended, hey guys, keep an eye on this. And let's think about, you know, because he'll come to us every year now. He loves us. So, and trying to promote it was difficult timing this year. I also want them to kind of, we're going to start looking at sniffing around the toy drive and how can we help bring it back to the way that it was. And it might not be no cost. It might just be organizational, organizing, that sort of thing. And I know I mentioned it to Trish, but I don't think I've officially dropped that on her yet. I kind of want to. Yeah, Trish, I just want to wait maybe 10 months or so before I start sniffing around that.
And then just a couple other, when I was walking in from up to the meeting, I noticed on floor two, but is there a lot of hearings going on? We're gonna be evaluated.
Oh man, I meant to cover that in it's right on my front page too. I apologize. there are a lot of hearings going on. It's been nonstop. I think he's doing 3 an hour, he said. Doing the best he can. We sat here after hours for about an hour the other night, just talking about budget, cars and taxes and how the meetings are going, and very busy. As expected. You know, that's why he blocked it off in advance. This was predictable.
And then you mentioned the animal control being put into the capital, which is totally understandable. But if you get other towns on board, would they help?
So let me pick out some round numbers here. Let's say we're gonna build a facility, it's gonna cost $1 million and we do steep and our match is 20%. We'd split the 20% and go down to 10, like let's say another town comes in, so
Yeah.
now we'll just cut that match in half. It's not gonna be that simple, I promise you,
No,
like it's gonna
but-
pull our hair out, but I'm just in round numbers, that's how we would do it. So the match is what we, if we don't get a grant, $1 million. If we do get a grant, it's still gonna cost us, I think, 20% is the match.
Okay. And then just my last question is, you also mentioned Parks Garage, which is great that sounds like it's moving forward. Do you have an estimate of when that might be finished?
Oy vey, we don't, do we?
October.
October.
Yeah.
Like Sarah Beth?
Last time we talked, it seemed like it was on track. We started excavating.
Oh, yeah, no, they're digging right now,
They're
yeah.
busy,
Yeah.
yeah, they're out there, it's freezing, but they're out.
Is the ground diggable? It must be if they're out there.
It is after.
Funny you should
like,
ask.
Foot.
I don't think the ground was especially difficult today, but I don't need to get into that.
That's all I have.
Nothing goes smooth for us.
No.
The factory exploded.
I know, I still think about that. Okay,
All good?
I'm all good, yeah.
Any other questions for our town manager?
One quick one.
Mhm.
Starbucks update.
They're slow, you know, look at that Ellington one took almost 2 years, I wanna say, to go up. You know, you gotta be, the town, their permits are all pulled. So everything with us has been done, you know, we obviously. There's no delay, everything's been done with us, now it's a matter of them. I'm sure they have a pretty good routine about throwing these things up, but no update at all, Bucks, other than the excavators there.
I would-
Santini, is that?
I was just gonna say, I would say that they're in the same position as Santini, waiting for production and lumber and things to go down.
Yes, Santini, I meet with almost once a week.
Yeah.
He's got, I believe, 11 or so massive foundations. I've never seen a cleaner operation in regards to construction site management and the professionalization of that site. And, you know, obviously it's Santini and Pierce, those two together. It's as clean. You don't hear boo about dust, dirt, nothing. It's very, very, very professional. He's moving fast. He'll be quick. He wants to start throwing up wood, I'm sure, in the spring, I believe, is what he said. But you know, we'll see. We're you know, hopefully within a year or so, we have people over there.
Anyone else?
Gymnastics facility opening up soon.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to adoption of minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve, the December 10th regular meeting minutes. I'm entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
Motion.
Counselor Yudichak moved to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, Counselor Shay seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, so Buckler abstains. Those ones pass. All right, that brings us to item 12, correspondence to council.
Okay, so yeah, we've had a few since we took a break for a while. So, so the chair, Board of Ed chair sent the council an email, just sent us link with the proposed budget and, meeting dates, I believe, as well. I would highly recommend you look at it, and if you need a date, it was sent on January 9th. It has a lot of good information in there, so take a look at it. And then we got an email regarding road improvements. I think Brian, you responded, or hopefully Scott responded to the gentleman regarding road improvements. Did you?
I got several.
I also responded to one.
Yeah, we respond to all of them.
Okay.
You might have only gotten one, but I got several and we responded and I get yours, so I would respond to that.
Yeah,
I would not wait for you guys to respond.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that one was covered. So the email regarding the town council vacancy, I think the person is going to be good because they worked with them in the past. So that's not Lee, obviously. We also got an email asking the chair and the vice chair to write a joint statement regarding re-evaluations to help calm concern of residents. That was probably weeks ago, so I'm not sure if you two discussed that and maybe talk about it with Jason or something, I'm not sure. Next, we received an email, but Brian Ford, it was actually for the superintendent. I believe that was regarding busing. The council was also CC regarding concerns about a Board of Ed executive meeting, but again, that's more Board of Ed. And then I think that's really it. Yeah, I think that's really all we got. Yeah. Just want to make sure because we have been getting a lot and some of them were stuff from the same writers, but I need to still get them in there. So anyways.
Thank you, Colleen.
Yeah.
Okay, brings us to item 13, the chairperson's report. I do have a couple things to say today. So start off, I hope all of our town staff and residents are able to get some well-deserved rest over the holiday season. I hope that everyone's year's off to a good start. As we begin this new year, we're immediately faced with the budget cycle. The Board of Education just received their proposal from the superintendent, and it won't be long before the council will also be reviewing proposals as well. So as we begin this process, I just wanted to remind the town of a few things. Number one, remain civil. It's okay to have passionate discussions. It's an important part of our democratic process, but I think it's very important that we keep our criticism focused on the ideas and the proposals and not drift into personal attacks and insults. I'd also like to ask that if you write into the council, please be sure to use your actual name and address. Anonymous messages should not be considered for correspondence, as I believe it's typically stated in a procedure that electors are allowed to speak during public participation. Second, I think this goes to address some of the concerns that we had in our correspondence regarding the reevaluation. Many residents were shocked when they received assessments showing that the value of their home had increased by large amounts, and hence if we stuck at the current mill rate, their taxes would also go up. This council must work to adjust the mill rate downwards so residents are not overtaxed given the sheer magnitude of the assessments. As in previous years, budget proposals will include a table showing the estimated dollar change in taxes for homes at different price points. There's also tax calculators online and tools like that. So I would ask residents when they evaluate the proposals, please look at these tables to assess the impact of the budget on your personal finances, because a mill rate decrease might not actually equate to a tax decrease this year. Usually you kind of bet if the mill rate's going up by a little bit, your tax is going to go up a little bit, but I think because of the drastic change in assessed values, it's going to be a little bit harder to use that as a mental shortcut. Finally, I'd just like to remind our town that, you know, to be very honest, our last budget was a rough cycle. It took 4 referendums to pass that budget, which is the most, I think, 15 years. I think you had to go back to 2007 or so to see that sort of effort needed. It's not good for our town and our staff when we have that that sort of multiple referendums. So, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. You know, we don't have a Board of Ed adopted budget. We don't have a town manager budget proposal. It's crucial we listen to their concerns. I think it's crucial that we get things right the first time. So I just urge our counselors to think carefully about that. It's going to be on our minds for the next few months, and I'd just like to get that, get us all thinking about that. And all the budgets are about setting priorities and living within our means. That's all I have. I think that brings us to our chairperson's report, our communications and petitions from council persons. So, anybody comments? Yes, Councilor Moran.
Just a couple of things. One, thank you, Brian, for the update on the state police MOU being signed. I know that Councilor Noonan had, expressed, and I think we all agreed, wanting to ensure our schools can be as safe as possible. And I know Jacob and I had talked with you as well about expediting that so that the town could do whatever we could to help that process move along Board of Ed. So thank you for that. With respect to the revals, all I want to do is reiterate what I said at the end of December, what the town manager, thank you for that, posted very early on, and what I think is even on the revals that get mailed out. It's really important to remember that just because your property values increase by an average of 49% does not mean that your taxes are going to increase by 49%. We're not close to, obviously, as the chair mentioned, to proposing a budget to go to referendum. But I think it's safe to say that the mill rate will certainly go down, and go down in a way that's not going to be, you're not going to see a 49% increase in your taxes because of the assessment. All of this is standard because the state requires every 5 years that we do a reval. Property values have increased, and so all of this is standard. So always with budgets, there's social media gets sort of like stirs things into a frenzy and gives people stress and anxiety. So just please, I just ask, watch the meetings, read our minutes, reach out to counselors or Board of Ed members, and so that you don't have any unnecessary anxiety about that. I think Councilor Udacek had mentioned this. The BOE chair had sent us an email with the dates for some of their budget discussions. I just want to remind everyone that the BOE has a budget meeting tomorrow night at the high school. They do their rounds, and you're able to, the Board of Ed is able to ask questions of school administration, and then so is the community. So I think that begins at 6, and then the public is able to, or the community is able to ask questions from 7:30 to 9. So certainly, if you want to know what all the work that goes into that, definitely attend that. Bouncing back to reval, I believe we had a comment about this earlier. I believe the reval information is online, but it can be difficult to find. It's attached to your property card. Maybe we can try to find a way.
As soon as he said that, I had Lisa digging in, and she thinks it's there.
I think it is too. I just think maybe on our homepage, if there's a way to just sort of direct people where to go.
I'll look at it.
It can be kind of a deep thing, but yeah, I believe it's there.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else today?
I have a few things. I just first want to thank the DPW for keeping up with the skating rink. I'm sure that's a lot of work, and
There's a Zamboni.
get over there.
It's not a-
Yes.
The hose. Works though, you do it. The dust was blowing up in the field. They watered turned on the sprinkler system and watered the infield. And then it froze over to keep the dust down. I just worried that some residents were going to see us watering the baseball field and think we've lost our minds.
That's just believer. Anyways, so the next, again, we touched base on it earlier, but the event on the green, the event on there, I know Jen was there, Chris was there, myself and Katie and some others. It was a really good time, and I would even recommend you guys go next year. The fire show. Which apparently that was unexpected for Brian.
I'd like to know about a fire show in advance. That's just me.
I thought it was a great surprise. And Jacob just confirmed Lockton's coming next month to discuss insurance.
So what was the latest?
They're on the
that?
28th.
Yeah, I think
the
I
next
lost the
week.
schedule. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stuff shifts around, but yeah, just.
We'll get stuff ahead of time to review, I think we did last year.
I'll double check with Mike what's in tomorrow.
I feel like it's not a lot.
No, he's got a presentation. You'll probably have that in advance. too.
Yeah, it was something, okay, and we're gonna leave it that right now, and then, just in the past, previous council, and then when I served on the Board of Ed, we did have counselors go to Board of Ed meetings. I know I attended almost all of them last year, just about, especially during budget time. I don't know, Jacob, if that's something you wanna think about again, and how we did it was everybody, it was a rotated bid, so not somebody had to be everyone, and then they would give an update. You know, I think especially during budget time, it might be good. I know it's a commitment, but again, if we just split it up, you know, it worked well.
Idea.
Yeah, so if people don't mind or not, I think, it was Steve, I can't, they made out, maybe that was when I was on the Board of Ed, there's a list by the chair that try to work out dates and see if people could do those dates or something.
Okay, yeah, no, I like the idea of kind of splitting it up like that, maybe Chris and I talk with Tony and Jen and figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, good communication, tool too. And then, sorry, so, and then I want to thank Mike Wyman and Len Bach for their service. I honestly did not know Len retired. When did that happen?
He sent a letter this week, right?
The 10th was Friday, so we got it Thursday. Last
I
Thursday.
missed it, man, yeah, those some big shoes to fill in that.
I don't think they sent him to council. He submits to the clerk.
I saw all over
They were
Facebook.
very
Yeah.
much wanted to be under the radar.
Sure they did.
The proclamation was a fight, so
You know, they're good guys.
the
They're
best.
funny guys.
Best. It's tough.
They really are. And then also, I think I sent Chris and you, Jacob. Can't remember, but there's so many questions about the reevaluations. Is there any way that Jason could come to a meeting and just update the council or something? Cause it just seems,
In regards to the reval, you mean?
yeah,
Because sure, it's generic.
yeah.
You know, no one's. His meetings with the residents are informative. There's no like decisions made or anything like that. I don't think there's been a single application to the zoning, is it zoning board of appeals or assessment appeals? Yeah, there hasn't, I don't think there's been a single one yet, so it's been wild, busy, innocuous.
Okay, so you don't think it's really worth him?
Of all the people, that's your call.
No,
Of all
I
the
know,
people that came through, and it is about 3 an hour every day.
Yeah.
Only one has left really upset. And that would have been predictable, but I don't see great value, but only because our schedules our agendas are getting packed.
but- Okay. All right, so that was, I think that's really, there's a few, let me check this out, yeah. I think that was really it, Jacob. You touched on the emails. We got over 200 emails during budget season last year, and I did send a thing to Chris and Jacob and copy Brian and Sarah Beth on it. This year, definitely do a better job. I've already started spreadsheets, trying to keep it more well organized. I will, again, if people don't include their addresses in the emails, I will say, please respond. I can't track it if you don't give me an address. And then I think we really were doing a really good job when people wouldn't respond. Then we started looking them up to see if they were residents, and then that's how we started tracking so many not true residents. And I understand if you don't want to give your address, so we still can look up at least the name. I understand people like their privacy as well. Does that sound like Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, the resource that we use is the voter registration list.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if they're not registered to vote, I don't see why they would be writing in about the budget, but
Right.
that's the resource we use to confirm that they're
You can also look on, I would also use Vision, the online for assessor, the assessor puts out there. And if it's a student, they'll have to give their address. We had a false student last year, right, and so I just don't want that to happen. That caused a lot of stress. I ended up having to go to state trooper's office about it, and I don't want to repeat, so, thank you, Jacob, for bringing that up. That's it.
Anything else from counselors?
Yeah, just really quickly, I want to echo, hey Jacob, you were mentioning just going forward with civility into the budget season here. I don't think this is time where we can put the cart before the horse. We don't have all the information yet of what we're looking at, but I can assure you, at least in my opinion, I don't think illusions of grandeur are beneficial, and then also not wanting to offer olive branches at all. I don't think either are acceptable. I think coming to a middle ground on well-informed decisions is what we're gonna look to do this year, and work as a team. You guys know that I ran on school security, so I'm not gonna go too deep into that, because you've heard me talk about it before. We'll see where they put the priority in that, because the ball is now in their court with the MOU that Brian has informed us this here. I have my small things like street signage and buttoning up safety here in town, which Brian's told me he's working on as well. And the other was offering a sustainable mill rate for everyone here in town. So I think this year's gonna be great. We're gonna get through it.
Hopefully this year
And
already.
yeah, it's just like Chris was saying, if you have questions, come to us as counselors or come to Brian. We're always here to answer questions. Get off Facebook, walk into town. We have plenty of residents that come in here and ask valid questions, and lead with the decorum. And that's the most important way to communicate effectively. So other than that, can't wait.
There's one thing I wanted to follow up on Councilor Yudichak. So I agree, important residents include their address on emails. I just don't want either you or town staff to have to be digging too much. So I think if residents choose not to include their address, they run the risk that those won't be counted. So I just don't want town staff to be taking up a ton of time, or you trying to chase people down.
If you guys are okay with that, but they like that.
No, that's
yeah,
fair. I'm
if
just
you're
saying, I don't want
okay,
you to have
alright,
to
run
search
around.
every database trying to figure out if these people are there. That's all.
But, all right, but I will do my.
Yeah, no, I
due
appreciate that.
diligence. And Sarah Beth, unless I really need help from you, I'll ask, but like Krista said, if I don't have to, but there's a lot of ways to find people. So, yeah. Some other stuff.
Anything else?
Yeah, so as we talk about the budget cycle, I'm wondering if it's possible to get sort of a heads up on the impact on the autos to the budget, because the property tax is determined by two things, right? The value of the vehicle and then the mill rate that's used on the vehicle. And we've been capped out for the past several years at, I think it's 32.49%.
Yep.
And if we drop our mill rate, and Tim Minuccio actually brought this up.
We are gonna likely lose.
So we're
that.
gonna lose that funding, the state
But I
funding.
think the Yolita says it's behind a year, so we'll have it this year.
26 we won't, I'm sorry, Brian, for 26 we will have, because it's based on the mill rate that it was adopted in June 2024. However, for 2027,
Yep.
that's where we're gonna lose that 938.
Okay.
So
So, but also we're changing the valuation of the autos. It's gonna be based on net book value as opposed to Blue Book or
Yes.
Blue Book or something like that. So it'd be nice to know what the impact of the net book value adjustment is. And if the rate's locked in, that makes it real easy then. So we'll know that, whether or not we're gonna have an increase or a decrease in property taxes on the autos based on the new valuation rules that are coming into effect. So it'd be nice to just sort of get a heads up before we go into budget. By the way, we're gonna lose 600,000 value or in taxes because of the revised valuation, or are we gonna actually get a bump up or something like that going into the budget. Going forward, just kind of gives us a heads up.
I asked, we had a meeting again, the other night, Jason and I had a meeting, I asked. He doesn't know at this point, but as soon as I'll have him, what I can do is in the next town manager report, I'll have an update on exactly what he can tell us, so far on that. As we move forward, but I think in a couple months, we might have a clearer picture.
Okay, so we're still running the numbers on the net book value?
Yes.
Okay. What's the lowest? Is there like does it drop down to like a maximum 30% of original value or something?
I don't know, I can find out for you.
Okay.
He still doesn't have everything he needs from the state to make the calculations.
Really?
Yeah, so he was saying that he's hoping by mid-February, he would have a better handle on it. And he's spending most of January dealing with these hearings, so
Yeah, right.
he's just, but he's still waiting on information from the state.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Butler?
This kind of goes along with, what Councilor Yudichak was saying, it's just, it came to mind, as she was saying, talking about correspondence to council. I'm wondering if we ever considered including correspondence to council either in our meeting packet or our minutes. I know other boards will do that when they get emails and they'll attach it. I can't remember it offhand if it's in their minutes or the meeting packet because it's getting late. But I'm wondering if that's something that has ever been done or considered. Just because sometimes we get a lot of communication and I'm assuming a lot to try to give a summary of what is coming in, and we do get a lot of good information sometimes too. So I'm wondering if that's something that can be considered in the future to include those communications to town council.
You want me just to my experience from previous on it?
It's okay if I.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, so it's worth discussing, but the one thing I would be concerned about, because I've seen this, I think on Board of Ed when I joined 4 or 5 years ago, was sometimes you have people write in some really crazy stuff, like, not even necessarily the budget, accusing employees of something, that's totally false and malicious. And, if there's a policy of including correspondence, that goes out in a publicly available packet, even if you're not endorsing that information, I don't know if that's necessarily like a great precedent we want to set. I mean, I'm open to thoughts about it, but I think there'd have to be a way to be careful with that, and also have a policy that's somewhat objective and reasonable.
I believe in I can review it tomorrow, but I believe in your rules of procedure, it states that any correspondence related to a public hearing is automatically part of your packet. So we always have to include it.
Yeah.
For, say that, the capital budget public hearing that's coming up in February, any correspondence directly related to that has to be part of your packet. But for a regular meeting, you would have to vote on new rules and procedures to include correspondence. That's my understanding. I would have to clarify, and I'll certainly look into it if you want me to, but that's how it's stated now.
I think that is how we've been operating, but anyway.
I was just gonna say, I think we've talked about it, I feel like this always comes up because it's a good question, but it's because of the size of the packets and the space that you have. I think that was another issue, that it takes up a lot of room, especially thinking of 200 emails. I mean, I know I have to delete a lot, but I think that was another reason why we did not include emails as well, as because of the size of the packets. And stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my opinion, would be open to whole council's thoughts, but I think there needs to be some guardrails, would be my.
Definitely, because there, like you said, there are some.
You just never know what you're gonna get. Just kind of just my take on it.
And I agree, we get some really interesting emails and then, we get some legitimate emails too. I just didn't know if it was ever considered, just because, I think if you just consider the ones that are legitimately, either questions or comments as far as the process goes, it just kind of adds to the, the the town's ability to be transparent about the process and what actually is going on. I mean, it's all public knowledge. I mean, so if someone were to, you know, FOI the stuff, I mean, it would be something that we'd have to provide, but I think especially during budget season, it gives a clearer picture of what actually exists out there as far as what the town is saying and expressing to the town council.
Looking at the rules of policy, under correspondence to council, it says communication to the council should be shared as follows. One council shall designate a counselor for the term to present communications at each regular council meeting. 2, the communication shall be highly summarized as follows. A, identify that a communication was received, such an email or mail from a resident of the business, or briefly identify the topic of the communication. So that's how it's set in the rules.
If we were to do it, we would have to.
Like Brian
amend that
said,
procedure.
yeah.
Well, something to think about, I
How
suppose.
old is this anyways?
We voted with that.
2022. That was gonna be like 1999 or something.
It probably is originally, but it's.
Right.
2022. But yeah.
Someone stands outside of the
It's
bank.
come up. Yeah, I mean, you could put guardrails, like you said, but
Yeah.
everything is affordable as well. Anyways.
Which is another headache in itself.
But anyways.
Anything else? All right. I think I'll go to item 15, the last item on the agenda, public list of participation for the 3-minute limit. All right, so we have Jen Galachant online.
Hi there. Jen Galachant, 150 Timber Trail, Vice Chair of the Tolland Board of Education. First, I'd also like to thank Katie Stargarter for her years of service to the town council and the town community, and congratulate Mayor Lee Beebe on her unanimous appointment tonight. I want to thank Chris Moran for mentioning the Tolland Public Schools Community Budget Workshop tomorrow night at the high school. I just wanted quickly to add some more detail of what this event entails. This is an opportunity for anyone and everyone in the community to directly interact with members of our district staff. In attendance, we'll have our principals and vice principals of every school, our curriculum director and supervisors, our special education director and supervisor, our athletic supervisor, our facilities director, and our IT director. So this is where you can ask questions and receive firsthand information about this year's budget request, and how it affects each school, each department, and most importantly, our students. I hope to see all our town counselors there, as this is the most personal way you can directly interact with the town school district and understand its needs. So the Board of Education meeting itself begins at the high school at 6 p.m. and board members then are able to rotate and ask their questions regarding the superintendent's proposed budget. Community members are welcome to observe during that time, and then at 7:30, the community members get the floor and they're able to ask their questions and interact until about 9 p.m. So just a reminder, this is an in-person only event. We'll start the meeting as Zoom, but there's no Zoom as you actually rotate through the rooms and talk to each of the administrators. So I hope to see as many people that can be there tomorrow. And that's it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody in the room like to speak? George?
Still awake. Well, I'm glad to see you all here. George, Fisher Game Road. I'd like to remind you, we got a new sheriff gonna be coming to town, or whatever you wanna call him, up there, King or whatever. And he's really down on Department of Education. He wants to really cut it back. We get, the country gets billions of dollars a year from the Department of Education, and Connecticut gets some share of that. And the state government doesn't know exactly what to do, because they haven't got any input for what's gonna go on. But I think being a blue state really works in our favor, you know, so I'm sure he'll take care of us. But all in all, I think we really need to be very wise this year with our money. I did go to the Board of Education meeting last week, and they're looking to add 4 or 5 more positions. Part of that is the fact that now they have a push on for full-time pre-K. I thought I made out right. I started at 6 years old. Now they're starting out with 3 and 4 year olds. And do 3 and 4 year olds really need to be going to school all day? I'm not really sure. I think most of that's going to be morning naps and afternoon naps and all this other stuff. So I think just going forward, we need to be really cautious. I don't think we're going to be that well off from the Fed or the state government this year. I'm sure the state's going to be pushing to blow those guardrails away and spend more money, but they're also complaining that the 5 largest cities in the state all pay less money per student than the rest of the towns in the state. So they're wanting to put a lot of money in those places. So just be advised, I think we need to be smart this year. We're smarter. We don't need a bunch of referendums either. Because once you get people's backs up, then it goes up, and then you got to really nickel and dime to get it down so people will accept it. Thank you.
Anybody else online? Anybody else in the room? Right, I think we'll close out public listed participation. Is there any objection to adjournment? No objection. We are adjourned.